What's up, guys? Welcome back to WallStreet Wealthy. I'm your host, SP Warren, and this week I have the opportunity to interview Aditya Bora. Now, I would do injustice introducing this man myself. So, Adi, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks so much. I really appreciate the brief introduction. So to kind of go into a little bit of detail about myself, I'm Aditya. I usually go by Adi, kind of like the car. And so essentially, I'm a graduate student from the Case Western Reserve and in Cleveland, Ohio. And I graduated in 2020, and now I am the director of sales at Supply Now, which is one my startup.
I think you might be underplaying that just a little, bro. Your company's what, worth $5-6 million now? So before we get to that, let's pick it up from where we actually first met. So for those of you listening in, me and Adi first met while studying our undergraduate degrees at Case Western Reserve University. So Adi, do you want to pick it up from how does a Case Western undergrad student go to owning a $5 million company in less than what, 3 years, 4 years?
Funny story. I started Case as an electrical engineer, and then I realized quickly that I didn't really like it as much. So I switched to mechanical engineering, and then I also realized again that I didn't like that either. So then I kind of like figured out what I liked, and I realized I liked like the numbers part of engineering, and then well I like something that everybody else likes, making money. So I naturally went into finance and economics. So that kind of started my path towards finance and entrepreneurship. So basically, I went over to finance, and then I started talking to a lot of my professors, started doing my own research, reading a lot of money books. I'm sure everybody's heard of like Robert Kiyosaki.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
So that's like I think that's like the most basic book everybody reads, and then kind of catches like the entrepreneurial bug. So naturally, I caught that, and I always had that in the back of my mind. I never really acted on it until like I was like a junior in college, and then once that started, I just couldn't stop anymore. So fast forward, I started getting into a little bit of real estate, which I still am involved in, reaching out to a lot of people. Honestly, like one of the first few things I did was actually reach out to my landlord, whose house I was living in, and I was like, "Hey, I'll help you rent out your places if you can teach me about real estate." So little did I know at the time that I would kind of take the career path of like sales and entrepreneurship. So I got into essentially renting out these apartments for my landlord, and I started making some good money off of it, especially like commission. And I was like, wow, there's good money in this. And then I would actually take that money, and then I'd use that money to invest. And going into like investments and stuff, I obviously like trading. I'm a big options trader, just really enjoy it, as well as like I get a lot of thrill out of it. So
So, even though I know the answer to this question, some of our viewers might be wondering where along this timeline did you actually start trading? Did you start trading as a teenager, or was it just a more recent development in college years?
at 19, I was trading stock, and I was trading crypto. And actually, I started trading crypto around like 2016, 2017, when it was really new. And I think the first time I bought Bitcoin was when it was at like 600.
Wow, that means you actually got in before me then, because I got in when Bitcoin was $5,000. So you got in like 800?
Yeah, so I got into Bitcoin super early, but
Wait, does that mean you were there for the 2017 all the way right up to 20,000 and crashed down? Did you experience that?
yeah, I was. I
Oh
was.
my God, how was that way?
That was quite the ride, to be really honest. Um, Obviously, at the time, I didn't even have enough money to buy like a full Bitcoin, so I didn't get to experience like the craziness, like to the full potential, like everybody, a lot of other people did. But I was still like part of it, and I was like, wow, this is insane. So obviously, like I got hooked to it, and all like my college jobs, I was pouring a lot of money into it. Especially that was my freshman and sophomore year.
Exclusive content. So our viewers would definitely like to hear how were your emotions during that roller coaster ride in 2017 when Bitcoin went up to 20 grand and then crashed to three and a half.
I've definitely seen that. It's scary, I'll tell you that. But at the time, like when you're especially when you're a student, it's definitely scary, but you kind of get used to it. So like nowadays, like when Bitcoin drops from like let's say it's like 68K to now recently it dropped to like 45, 46, 47K. It's really not even that much compared to what it was back then.
That reminds me, man, this could happen to the best of us. Cause like I remember March 12th, 2020, like it was yesterday. Cause Bitcoin was like I was like at 5 grand and then I got in and then boom, it crashed to like 3,500. I was like doubting myself, like, is Bitcoin a fad? Is it gonna last? Because even though like I knew about the technology, like I know a lot of these new emerging technologies get shut down by the market a lot, right? So I was like, man, Bitcoin had a good run. It's been 10 years. Maybe this is it. So I was getting a little scared myself. So yeah, I couldn't imagine in 2017 how you felt from 20 grand all the way down to three and a half. So that's really insane. But let's set that aside and circle back, discuss about entrepreneurship, because that's why I really wanted you here to talk about your business, your first business, which is real estate, and then Supply Now, right? Which is the $5 million valued business. So do you want to talk about your first business, right? Real estate?
Honestly, my first business that I actually worked on was my photography business. So I built out a just because it started from a hobby. I really enjoyed taking pictures, and I started just kind of working on it. And slowly, I realized, oh, I kind of need money to like buy equipment to like take pictures of people. So I just kind of just started doing wedding photography. And over the years, I like my most successful year, I did about like 15 to 16 weddings and they all paid really well. And it was great. And basically I think one of my biggest mottos is kind of like reinvesting. So everything I make, I reinvest. I don't really spend as much.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have a quick question that might interest some viewers. So, how were you able to land these wedding gigs? Did you use like an online search tool like Fiverr or something, or were you just doing mouth to mouth?
Yeah, so I would say a couple of my weddings came through through like referral based, so like word of mouth. But a lot of them was honestly like advertising myself on like these different like wedding platforms where like actually like couples would go on and like kind of check and see like what kind of photographers were available, and then just I would just get kind of reached out to based on like how well my work, how good my work was. So in the beginning, it was a little tougher to get clients because obviously I didn't have as much work. I was still very fresh, but as time progressed, as I kept taking more pictures and kept kind of like grinding at it, I got better. I got reached out to more, and basically that's kind of how like the snowball started happening, especially for photography.
Now, usually I would never ask any of your guests this, but I made sure it's okay with you before. So, what is your net worth at this moment in time? So, at the end, at the height of the wedding photography business, what would you say your savings look like?
Um, Net worth, photography business. Well, if we're not counting student, I'm not going to put in student loans. This was probably like around like 20, 25, maybe 30, 30K.
And what age was that?
That was around like 21.
So $30,000 basically at the age of 20. How did you reinvest this money?
Yeah, so basically, I reinvested a decent amount in photography. What was really nice is starting junior year, I actually didn't, my parents didn't have to send me any money. So my parents actually live in India. So I've always wanted to kind of like not have to rely on them. So a really good scholarship, which covered like most of my school expenses, then living off campus, being able to pay rent on my own, my living expenses, then also manage the photography business as well as like a few campus jobs, especially like working at the gym and stuff, which was like really like enabled me to like kind of keep putting work into the business and then also pay for all my expenses and keep growing. So kind of going off of that, that was my first business. I learned to run it as a business and grow it as a business based on like a lot of the business books that I've read. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I think I've been able to do well is because I read a lot. So to kind of go more into that, that was the photography business. Then after that, I got into the real estate, like I was saying. I through photography and just being able to like talk to more people, I realized that I was actually not bad at sales. So this landlord, who is still to this date one of my mentors, he was like, "Hey, I have these 5 or 6 apartments that need to be rented out. Can you please rent them out for me?" And I was like, "Okay." So now we're in the timeline of this is we're in 2020 now. So there's like early 2020, especially. Yeah. So the reason I got into this was 2020 COVID-19 hits in March, and I realized that all my weddings are postponed because of COVID. So you can't really have any weddings. So I just went from having like a ton of weddings booked. I think like I already had like 6 or 7 weddings booked. And I realized they all got postponed. So I was like, how am I going to make money? Because I mean, I don't really want to go back to asking my parents for money. So reached out to the landlord, told him, "Hey, I want you to tell me about real estate. I'm going to rent all your apartments out." So I started doing that, and I ended up making about I think it was about 8 or 9 thousand in a month from him just on commission. Obviously, yeah, I definitely enjoy making money for sure. I do like kind of like being able to like link different things in together and just like finding different opportunities in like everything around me. So I did that, and then he taught me all about real estate, all about like he has like about like 20 to no about like 40 rentals. So he taught me how to get into the rental game and how to understand real estate, how to find the best properties. So I was able to pick up a really valuable resource, a friend and a mentor.
So I know not all of our viewers will have someone they know in the real estate space. So if you don't know anyone in the real estate space and you want to get involved, how does one go through this?
So there are a few loopholes there, but obviously, if you're planning to buy and if you're planning to like show a house as a realtor and be like the chief negotiator, then you obviously have to get a realtor's license, which, by the way, is a very easy process. So if anybody's planning to do that, I would highly recommend it because it's really easy. It's only I think about like $1,000 that you need to put down to get the license, and then once you get the license, you just find a reasonable brokerage and you just kind of go from there.
So do you know roughly how long that takes to get the realtor's license?
Honestly, you could, if you're really quick and if you really have the urge to get it done super, like quick, then I would say you could probably get the license done in like a month, month and a half, maybe 2 months. And then by that time, you should have a brokerage because you're already talking to different brokerages, and then you're kind of set. Now it just comes to the tougher part, which is lead generation. Then you get into leads, getting honestly referrals from people you know, friends, family, see if anybody wants to buy a house. Then on top of that, honestly, simple like door knocking, going out and knocking on people's doors and saying, "Hey, I'm the realtor in your area. Just wondering like this house like on this street got sold for like 200K, 300K, whatever it is. Have you thought about selling your house and like moving somewhere, something like that?"
There's a saying that says you can't catch a fish without getting your hands wet. And that's what I like to see what Adi does. Whenever he wants to get into an industry, he just gets his hands dirty and jumps in, starts getting experience, which is, I think, something our viewers can take away from this podcast, which is if you want to break into an industry or if you have a job you want, the best thing you can do is start gaining experience in that industry and start applying yourself in areas where leading experts in that industry were able to notice you. So I think that's something very important that you can take away, right?
Absolutely. I would say number one biggest thing is finding people who are kind of doing the things that you want to do. And then basically, like you just can't come up to somebody you don't really know that well and say, "Hey, can you train me?" Like that's never going to work. You need to offer them something too. And so in the case of like my landlord, his name's Ben. I was able to give him something that was of value to him, and in turn get something from him which is of value to me. So kind of it's always a give and take. So you got to make sure you're giving something so that you can take something.
Well put, man. So we're at the height of the 2020 pandemic, and you have this real estate business going. Now, how does supply now start? Do you want to get into that?
Absolutely. So yeah, the real estate, like the season's done because that was the rental season for like a lot of students. A lot of students are leaving the rentals around May. So once and then new renters are coming in May, June. So once that was over, I actually had an internship during that time from middle of May to end of or middle of August. It was an internship at KeyBank. I got an internship because my major was in finance, so I got an internship in the risk management department of KeyBank. So I was doing a lot of things at the time. so um, basically, just I think the name of the game is hustling. So kind of doing everything that you can and figuring out like what you really like to do. So we're at KeyBank, and that was also the time where I got involved in this startup, which was started by my friend Aaron George. And the startup at the time was called Pastry Now, which eventually became Supply Now. So
I was a big time customer of this startup. Do you want to tell the viewers who don't know what this is, what Pastry Now was, and the business operations of that first startup?
absolutely. So the original Pastry Now, before I joined, was a startup which essentially facilitated late night snacks, desserts, and other kind of goodies to college students. Essentially, the biggest reason behind this idea was because a lot of a lot of places around the Case campus just did not have many like late night options for students.
Yeah, everything closes around 8, so you guys were the only thing open past 8 p.m.
Exactly. So to kind of fill the need there, college campus, a lot of drunk students, whatnot. So you gotta get the gist. So that was the main motive behind.
Some of us students were actually studying.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, some students were also studying like true. Yeah, very much. Um, so to kind of go, and then that now Pastry Now has transformed into Supply Now version 1, and then now Supply Now version 2.
So let me get this straight. So you started a business called Pastry Now, which delivers cupcakes and other baked goodies to college students 24 hours a day. And then that allowed you to get in contact with customers and also suppliers, which customers being restaurants and like restaurant depots, and suppliers being these raw material, large quantity suppliers. And knowing both of these parties, you were able to put together the new business, right? So getting into Pastry Now is what allowed Supply Now version 1 to be born. So do you want to talk about the change in this business model?
Pastry Now to Supply Now version 1. Supply Now version 1, essentially, what we were doing was we were going into restaurants, and then we were taking a look at the different at the ordering patterns of these restaurants. We were talking to like the kitchen managers or like the owners, and then once we get a list of their groceries or their ingredients for every single week, after we collect that data, we would actually take those orders, because their orders were pretty much similar every single week, except for like the quantities on any given week. We would actually bid those orders, make those orders into contracts, and then bid those orders out into a marketplace of the different distributors available in and around their area. The reason we do this is because because most restaurants always have like one or two distributors that they've been using since the dawn of time. So they don't really know if they're ever getting like the best pricing available on the market. So basically we saw that we were able to do this. We were able to run a reverse auction style bidding platform on this entire thing. And now all those orders, we were able to save them anywhere from like 3 to 10% every given week. So we were able to lower a restaurant's bottom line, thereby saving them a lot of money, which was very helpful for them in especially like COVID, especially during COVID, when there were a lot of supply chain shocks and everything too.
So let me make sure I'm getting the economics of this whole business correctly. You basically took a restaurant, which is a price taker, from a supplier and made them a price maker. Because now this restaurant can go out into the market to a pool of suppliers and just bid on prices, like option style contracts. Is am I, is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah, exactly. So to kind of elaborate on that a little more, um, we were kind of doing the choosing for them, so they wouldn't even have to worry about it because like restaurant owners are usually busy with.
No, but it's assumed you give them the best deal, right? Mhm.
Yeah. So like say for instance, like somebody was buying rice at like $25 for every like 50-pound bag. Sometimes we were able to get that same 50-pound bag at a $20 rate. So right there, they say they're using like 100 bags of rice every single week. Big restaurant, they're saving $500 right there.
So one thing I still don't understand is if pastry now is already a cash flowing profitable business, why not just keep it around while also starting supply now? Why did pastry now have to die in order for supply now to be born? Why did that shift occur? Please elaborate.
Absolutely. So after that, we realized um, that while it does work, there are a lot of moving parts to it, and and now we're jumping a little bit more into 2021. So I'll get to that in a second. Just to kind of wrap up 2020, I ended up finishing that. So I was doing all of this while I still had the KeyBank internship too. So I was working the KeyBank internship and then during the day, and then I was working on supply now at night, as well as like very early mornings. So end of middle of August, I finished the KeyBank internship. It wasn't bad at all, but I just realized that my entrepreneurial spirit kind of kicked in, and I realized I wanted a lot more than just like a desk job, basically. So even if I realized that, but I still kind of kept it as like a backup. So KeyBank ended up extending me a full-time offer as a risk management analyst for the following year, so which would be 2021 in this July. So we'll get to that later. But I ended up taking it, and then I kept continuing to work on supply now. And at this time, that was 2020. We had figured out the new model. We had started putting these ideas in implementation, and this was all while I was in my last semester of college. So now, kind of swinging back into 20, moving forward into 2021, we started testing with a lot of new clients, testing this new idea, which was Supply Now version 1. And then we realized that, oh, well, we had a decent amount of success here and there. It required a lot of essentially manpower to kind of work out these details, as well as like keeping track of these orders. We realized that there were some inefficiencies because of the supply chain shocks and the general market overall. So we realized that we kind of needed to grow, and then throughout the first half of 2021, we kind of worked on all this, and this we ended up doing around I think it was 200. I think it was 250 to $300,000 in contract volume, of which we collected a gross profit of over around like 20 to $25,000 for supply now in the span of about like 5 to 6 months.
So this being 2020, you're like fresh out of your master's program, right? Fresh out of college?
Fresh out of college, so we kind of built up the idea and we started getting our client the database from around September to December of 2020, as well as like testing the new clients and whatnot. But from January to May, we really kicked it into gear where we were actually making money, running a profit, and actively testing during our beta phase for the first idea, for the first iteration of the idea. So
And
this
then,
was
do you have
sorry,
any investors up until now, or this is all bootstrapped?
no, so no investors, is all on
Sweat and
all
equity.
all bootstrapped. So to kind of so at the same time this was all happening, I had other stuff going on as well, because obviously by the from my story by now, I always have other stuff going on. So at the time I was starting to look into different sales things, sales kind of like gigs, even if you want to call it, because I was like, we need to put in money into supply now. How can I make the quickest amount of money to kind of put it back into the startup to kind of facilitate it more. So then I looked into summer sales, and I eventually found Vivint. So that's kind of what I'm also doing now as well. Vivint was basically like this. It was this door. It's publicly traded sales tech company. It's traded on New York Stock Exchange for anybody who wants to check it out. What I really liked about it was I was really attracted by it because of the amount of money and the commission that I could make as a 1099 contractor. And what really appealed to me was the fact that I could work I only had to work about like 4 to 5 months of the year, make a good amount of money, and then I could use a lot of that money not only to invest in real estate, to invest in all my investments, my crypto, and my options, and then also put it into supply now. So after this, I went and tried out Vivint for a week. We went to Fresno, California, and basically we were knocking on doors, and then selling alarm systems, smart home products, and solar. So this was in March. This was also during the time that Supply Now was running the testing, and then after that, come May, I moved to DC and Maryland for about 5 months. So that was quite the interesting switch. And honestly, I'm very glad I made the jump to kind of do both Vivint and Supply Now. So once Supply Now's testing was over, that was around May, I had already started Vivint. So basically, day in and day out, 6 days of the week, knocking on doors, actually like learning how to get rejected, and still being able to like overcome a lot of the objections, the smoke screens from a lot of people. I really learned how to do sales, I like to say, and I think that really fueled my spirit for entrepreneurship even more.
So I have an entrepreneurship professor who says there's no such thing as a dumb question. But then if I asked him something along these lines, like, well, how important is sales to entrepreneurship? He would say, well, that is a dumb question. But I'm still going to ask you, how important is sales to entrepreneurship?
I think sales is honestly like the bread and butter of it. So like I think it's great to have an idea, to come up with an idea, and to have like kind of like a game plan for it. But at the end of the day, like if you can't sell like your idea or like what product you have to, like if it's B2B, if you can't sell it to businesses, or if it's B2C, if you can't sell it to consumers, like straight up, your idea is not going to work. So like you're not going to generate any revenue, you're not going to be able to pay your expenses, and you're not going to be able to kind of get anywhere with it. So I would say honestly, like coming up with the idea is very important for sure. But I think if you don't have like a way to how you're going to cater to the sales, there's no way it's gonna work. To kind of to be really blunt about it.
And the cool part about this is you're not just saying it to be blunt, or you're not just saying it to saying it. You actually do what you say. For example, I remember this one time you told me about reading the book Shoe Dog, and that's why you went out and got that sales job because what you had like a $50,000 net worth at that time and two successful companies. So there was no reason to really go get that sales job other than realizing that sales and marketing add so much value that you can just bring back into your own business.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly my mindset, and to this day, that's still my mindset. And so I did Vivint. I ended up becoming the top rookie in our region, as well as the number two rookie in the partnership in Vivint. And that was honestly a great experience for me because I really learned how to push myself, and I learned how to kind of to get to the next level. uh, and during this entire time, I was still doing a little bit of supply now stuff, still reaching out to some people, but obviously credit is due to Aaron, who's also one of my partners at Supply Now. He's the COO of Supply Now, and he really stepped on the gas at the time where I wasn't part of it as much. So now we're coming into about September. Supply Now's idea had transformed a little more. I was more or less done with Vivint for the season. Did you want me to go more into like the Vivint stuff?
No, that was great actually. We covered everything I wanted to cover with the Vivint stuff. So let's circle back and talk about the entrepreneurship side. Um, Tell me more about Supply Now.
Yeah, so everything that Supply Now made went back into Supply Now, and like the expenses and whatnot. As far as what I really liked about Vivint was the fact that it was also like a business within itself, because you're a 1099 contractor, and then you basically like kind of manage your own sales team as well. So I learned how to do that, and so I was basically kind of managing between two companies, like my own company with Vivint, and then also my own startup with Supply Now. So that involved like dealing with the Supply Now stuff, with like the different aspects of the startup, as well as dealing with the Vivint aspect of it, as well as dealing with the Vivint side, where I was recruiting and training people to also come and sell with me and be a part of my team, which also improved a lot of my leadership and managerial skills. So they both kind of tied into each other. Everything I learned in Supply Now, as far as like business development goes, and just generally like really hustling into which tied into Vivint, and then the Vivint stuff, which was like the hiring and the training and the managing, which went back into Supply Now, as well as like the money that I earned from Vivint, which ended up fueling Supply Now for longer. Then in September, I was done with Vivint for the season. Did really well, so that was great. Then Supply Now ended up honestly gracefully getting an investment from an angel investor. So the investment firm is Comeback Capital, and we ended up securing a $200,000 investment at a $1 million valuation in September.
That's insane. That's insane. The funny thing is, I actually had a business idea I pitched to Comeback Capital like 3 years ago, and I got rejected.
Yeah, we also got rejected previous time. So to kind of go into that too, I think a lot of my journey has been learning that it's okay to get rejected, and even if you do, just keep trying. Especially if you like believe in your idea and you actually think that it's going to make a difference. So basically, we got the $200,000 investment, and then we transformed the business idea a little more, and then we basically we started at it again. And now it's December, so that was in September, October. We ended up getting selected in November for a no, it was end of October. Sorry, end of October. We ended up getting selected for the Youngstown Business Incubators Shark Tank event, where Aaron presented, and we got a lot of good reception from a lot of different investors, a lot of people in this space, and we got some really positive feedback. So we were one of the 5 companies out of, I forget the exact number, but there were a decent number of companies. We were one of the 5 who ended up presenting in front of like a whole Shark Tank board, and that was quite an honestly exhilarating experience. It was very fun.
Congratulations on that Shark Tank pitch, man. I know it's so hard to get in front of that board, so just to be there is an amazing opportunity. It's actually been one of my biggest aspirations to go on Shark Tank. So I'll need to get some tips for you on that. So tell me what happened after that? What is Supply now moving forward with, and what are the current plans?
Um, we transformed the idea to make it more holistic towards a lot of different services for a restaurant owner, as well as kind of being able to become like the platform that we had originally envisioned it would be. That and essentially plugging in a lot of different utilities into that platform, that a restaurant owner can kind of have like a one-stop shop for everything they need. So that's kind of where it's going to right now. I can't reveal as much.
Now, I know you can't talk much about what happened post that Shark Tank pitch, but pre Shark Tank pitch, what type of valuation are we looking at? Is that when we hit $5 million? dollars?
There's a high possibility that the valuation can be either somewhere between 3 to 5 million.
So that's seed stage to $5 million dollars in about 2 years. Such a short time.
Yeah, definitely a short amount of time.
Yeah, man, I've been looking at the time and I know you don't have too much to spare. So I'll get to the 2 most important questions because there's no way I can ask you everything I wanted to ask you. So, if there's one thing you'd known before starting Supply Now, or even one thing you'd known before beginning your entire career, what would that be?
So honestly, the first thing I would say is it's completely okay to fail. Um, it doesn't really matter how many times you fail. It just matters how many times you get up after you fail. That's just how I look at it. If you fail once, that's okay. Get up again. If you fail twice, get up 2 times. Really, when you stop getting up, that's when you, I guess, like lose, or it kind of just like stays. It's just like I use that same mentality for everything that I do, whether it's like trading options, trading crypto, Supply Now, Vivint, everything. It's okay to fail if you as long as you just keep going and you just keep getting up from your failure. So yeah, that's what I wish I had known earlier on when I was like a freshman or like a sophomore in college. But I think I kind of always knew at the back of my mind, but now I know that for sure.
I'm really sorry to be asking you these interview style questions, but I promise only one more. So, please tell me about your biggest failure and what did you learn from it? Or maybe you can even just share a regret and what you'd wish you'd done in the past.
It's not really a failure. I don't really look at things as like a failure. I'm very positive minded, very optimistic most of the time. So I would say honestly, not being able to, like, I wish I had gotten into finance or like gotten into entrepreneurship even like right out of like college, right when I started college. Just I think not being able to understand like what I was really interested in, because originally, like I said, like the first 2 years of my college life I was doing like engineering and I really wasn't as interested in that. um, it might stem from the fact that I grew up in India. My high schooling was in my high school career was in India, and and then it was just kind of like, oh, just like pick engineering or like pick medicine or like do something else, kind of like that. I just delved right into that. So I wish I'd done like finance, entrepreneurship way sooner, because I think I would have been even better off now. Um, but like it's okay that I started later than I would have liked. I'm still here and still going, you know.
Thank you so much for coming out to the podcast, man. I really appreciate you donating your time. You don't know how much value we're able to bring to the community by doing these podcasts because literally they're able to get first-hand advice from a young entrepreneur who's done it himself. So thank you so much for donating your time, and I'm sure a lot of our audience still has a lot of unanswered questions. So please feel free to share your Instagram, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, anywhere people can reach out and ask further questions they may have.
Yeah, absolutely. So check us out for Supply Now. It's www.supplynow.org. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect. Just Aditya Bora, Aditya Bora, or if it's Instagram, it's Aditya Bora, Bora.
So that concludes the fourth episode of the Wall Street Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, SP Warren, and I'll see you next time on Wall Street Wealthy.